Welcome back to the Unstoppable Introvert Project. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper, and today I'm so excited to welcome this person onto the show. This person, for over a decade, has been the driving force behind successful entrepreneurship, a business, and through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, they've navigated challenges and celebrated successes, all while maintaining this steadfast commitment to their clients. And I'm so excited to welcome Ollie Termeulen to the show. And it's a real pleasure to have you with us today, Ollie.
Thank you. That was a good ego boost just then.
Good.
I like that.
No, that's great, Ollie. I'm so excited. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited is because you've been one of my biggest supporters over the past 5 years or so. And I know you're a big fan of Rob, who I used to work with as well. Mm-hmm. And we used to have conversations all the time about how much we appreciated your support. So,
no worries.
It really is really appreciated. So yeah, getting you on the show is really exciting. So just before I get into my kind of first question, for people who might not have come across you yet, can you give us just a bit of a background of who you are and what you kind of do?
Okay, so I've been running a dog walking, dog sitting business for the last almost 12 years now. So there's a few challenges along the way, but on a good path with it at the moment. Yeah,
that's superb. And is that your own business that you started?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So to have a business that's 12 years old is absolutely crazy. And
yeah,
I think from an introvert perspective, how you got to that point is something I really want to dive into today. But before we get into the meat of that, what does being unstoppable look like to you?
I think to me, it would be not letting anything hold you back, doing something anyway without worrying about what someone else might think or how you might be judged, and just going for it regardless.
How did you get to that place? Or have you always had that mindset, or was it a bit of a journey to get to a point where you thought, you know what, I'm going to go and do this anyway?
It's been a long journey. I've suffered with dyslexia, so all through my education life, I was always told, "Oh no, you won't be able to do that. That will be too hard for you." And that was kind of my school life, really. And I just thought, well, if that's the case, what am I going to do with my life? Then I went to college, and that kind of the shift started there, I'd say. And I'd studied business studies for about 3 years, and that's kind of where the tables turned for me and realised, actually, no, okay, it's going to take me a bit longer, but I can still achieve and do well in something.
Definitely. Did you then, at that point when you finished school, is that the point that you started your business then, or was there jobs in between there?
There was a job in between. So I worked for a well-known supermarket, won't name names, and you kind of got a bit, I'd say, comfortable, and didn't really. It was like an old pair of slippers, essentially. It was comfortable, it was money, and then there was a change in management, and I got treated quite badly. Not badly, but I was not treated very nicely, let's say. And that was the moment for me where I realized, actually, I don't need this. And for it was a year, more or less a year to the month later, that I left and was working for myself.
Wow, that's a really cool story. And
Thank you.
I think it's quite a big breakthrough, actually, when you go, actually, you know what, I deserve better than this, or whatever's going on. And from an introvert perspective, then, for maybe people who are listening to this podcast, or maybe in the same situation as you, maybe they're in a supermarket, or at a job they're not particularly enjoying. and they're not getting much fulfillment out of it, and think,
Mm.
you know what, I've got bigger dreams. I'd like to start my own business. I'd like to do, or even just change jobs.
Yeah.
What would you kind of say to those people who are maybe, you know, at that place you were 12 years ago?
I'd say, what have you got to lose?
Right.
If give it a try, and if it doesn't work, you've still got some income. Try something else, or just do it gradually. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And then when the time is right, then you can leave, and you've got that security behind you, and just go for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that, because I think sometimes as introverts, we maybe think, oh, we can't do it, or, you know, we hold ourselves back because of our introverted nature.
Yeah. Well, it's comfortable, isn't it? You've got that security, that you've got that income, and you think, oh, why rock the boat? Why risk it? When in reality, life's too short to not try something, or to, why not try something new or start something new? It's, what have you got to lose?
Absolutely agree with that completely, and it's so refreshing to hear. But let's get back to your business then. It's Sit, Walk, and Stay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I think such a clever name as well.
Thank you.
Why dogs? Like, where did that passion kind of come from?
Oh, I've had dogs in my life since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
They've always been in my life. And I think, again, it was just a case of, that might be something that could work. And it so happened that it was the right fit for me to go into working with them.
You know, I love dogs. I've got a big one. I'm pretty sure she might make an appearance at some point.
That's all right.
Which is always quite fun. A thing that a lot of people don't know is my wife was actually a dog walker for a little while as well. We're dog mad. So let's just work through that kind of entrepreneurial journey then, Ollie. Because I think, again, that would really help people who are listening, who are ambitious and want to do that, but just have these kind of introverted blocks on them. So what was the main barrier that you had to overcome as an introvert wanting to kind of start your own business?
Firstly, it was taking the decision to do it, and have almost, really, that manager who wasn't kind did me a huge favor. I'm not bitter about it now, and I think, thank you for pushing me to do, not that he knew what he was doing, but it was a massive favor for me, and made me realize, no, I deserve better. So that was kind of the first hurdle, and it was thinking, and then I would say, really, it was just research, looking into pricing, how I could advertise, where to advertise, all that kind of thing. And this was before social media was really a big thing like it is now. So it was a case of getting flyers printed, going from, I spent a good 2 months posting flyers through doors before I got an answer. So it was just pure determination. And even doing that, I'd have to talk to people and make conversation, handing out flyers, and so it was all a good learning experience, for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that bit up, actually, Ollie. So I'm glad you've said it. Talk on that just for a second, because something I've always struggled with, and I know a lot of introverts struggle with, is that kind of more social part of entrepreneurship. Things like the networking and speaking to strangers, and that, which is a core part of you building a business.
Oh, absolutely, really. Yeah.
So how did you approach that side, knowing that you had to go and talk to people to build your business? How did that kind of look to you?
I'm very fortunate, actually, that I've got family members who run their own businesses, and could almost not give me a pep talk, but say, this is what you need to do. So I kind of went in prepared, essentially, to be approachable, be friendly. So I think that really helps. And really, it was just, I would get people, oh, no, I don't want that flyer, and oh, that's okay, don't worry, bye. So you just planting the seeds for various conversations almost, you know.
Did you ease into that process? Did you get used to doing that as time went on, or was it always a challenge?
Yeah, oddly enough, like this has just hit me now. I was working in a retail environment. I was already having conversations without really just realizing it now. I was having to have conversations with customers anyway. So maybe that was kind of a good practice run for that as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that I think it does get easier over time, but this is just my personal circumstances. As soon as I stop doing that social thing, or the networking, or take the foot off the gas from that side,
Yeah.
it kind of takes me a little while to get going again. So it's all about
Yes.
kind of keeping on going and things. And as an introvert, Ollie, does your social kind of battery get tired after all that interaction, or have you learned to cope with that as well?
I think it's something I've learned to deal with, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've kind of done it long enough now to have earned my stripes with that.
Yeah, just for myself, I always have to rev myself up for social engagement, and then
Yeah.
after it's like, oh, I need to lie down for a few days. Yeah, we'll come back to your business in a moment, but tell me about, how do you think some of your introverted traits have kind of shaped you as a person, or your kind of professional life?
I'd say it would be a case of actually when you observe people, when you're observing more than talking, you're almost learning to trust your own instincts. So I'd say that was a good thing. So like if something doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel right. So I'd say that was a good quality to have for sure.
I think again that's something that us introverts are maybe a little bit hard on ourselves, and we just think about what we don't have as introverts.
Mm,
I'd like to be louder, I'd like to be more confident in certain situations, but
mm,
actually being an introvert, there's so many different positives associated with that as
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
that extroverts probably wish they had. So
Yeah.
I think bringing our attention to those good things is really, really important. And then the next question: what do you think has been one of the biggest challenges when it comes to being an introvert running a business?
People pleasing. That's the big one for me. Agreeing to too many things and not taking myself into account at the same time. So that's been a big learning thing for me.
Have you got an example of what that kind of looks like in your life?
Yeah, so kind of towards, I'd say, the end of 2022, I kind of had burnt the candle at both ends with saying yes to too many things and not taking enough time for myself. And I just completely burnt out, really. It was really a hard one, really hard. And I had to learn that in order to run a business successfully, I've got to look after myself as well, because I'm the ship of that business essentially.
So thinking about that burnout, then how did you recover from that? Because I think those mental health issues associated with burnout can be really, really challenging, and I'm sure people
Mm.
listening today will be facing similar things. So yeah, what did you do to kind of bounce back or manage that burnout?
Talking was a big one for me. I'd say that's a massive help, is talking, and then actually realizing, oh, actually, no, it's okay to take your foot off the gas and just have those quieter periods where it's not so full on. I think that it's okay in small doses, but then allocating time to where it is quieter to just switch off and not be so full on.
What does that look like for you, Ollie? How do you like to relax?
So I tried so many things last year. I tried. I still do acupuncture.
Oh,
That's
cool.
that's really helped. That's really good. I've done sound baths, meditations, Reiki. I think just any kind of form of self care, really. Even just going for a workout, just clears the cobwebs away, and just I put my music on and not I'm not looking at my phone, just listening to the music and going for it.
You
Yeah,
mentioned something I hadn't heard before then. What's sound bar?
it's you go into like a meditation, and there's all these different some like the person running it will play these different noises, and it's really really relaxing. So like gongs and other things like that, bowls.
Oh, very good. Very
Yeah.
good. I haven't heard of that one before.
Oh, give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And I was going to bring up your exercise anyway, because yeah, hearing you mention, you go to exercise and work out and feel better that's a great one. I'd always recommend that if somebody's
Yeah.
burnt out or down, although it's tough sometimes to drag
Mm.
yourself off the sofa, it's great to bring, you bring yourself back. But the thing I was going to mention is your step count. For those who haven't come across Ollie yet, Ollie posts about your daily kind of step count. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of steps a week, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
I've only got little legs as well, so they can't. I hope they don't get any shorter.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Because,
Yeah.
what you might not know this off the top of your head, but what's kind of your record for steps per week, roughly?
Oh, I'm not sure about week, but I think the most I've ever done in the day is about 42,000.
Brilliant. That's a
Yeah.
long way. That's a
Yeah.
long way. It's probably like 20 miles.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
That is, yeah, it's a long, 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 long way. Doing that 5, 6, 7 times a week, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah. It all adds up.
Very cool. So next little bit then, I'm really interested to know just about where you've kind of turned any weaknesses or limitations into more of a strength. And I think that's
Mm.
something that the listeners today would really take some value from.
Yeah, I'd say actually definitely the being able to take the step back and observing more. I think that's definitely one that is a massive benefit. I'd say actually when you're a caring person, but it's certainly with what I do, it's a big selling point. It's not being a caring person or a sensitive person. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It shows that you care and you want to be give your best self, so I'd say that's a massive one. It's not a weakness at all, it's a strength.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What type of things do you look for in others, Ollie? You mentioned a couple of kind of key words there.
Mm.
Yeah, what type of traits do you value in other people?
I'd say honesty's a big one for me, and I think without sounding cynical, I'm not interested in people showing off and being giving all the BS. That I can smell that a mile off. I'd rather someone who was authentically themselves and didn't follow the crowd and just did their own thing. I think that's a really powerful trait to have.
I do as well.
Yeah,
Do you think that's something introverts struggle with?
I think so. I think if you're particularly with how social media is, it's so easy to get sucked into look at me in my perfect world when in reality that everybody does the same thing. We all have our breakfast and lunch, dinner. We all go to the loo. We all go to do our 9 to 5. There's nothing special about anybody else. We're all just doing our own thing.
A lot of what you're talking about there, that self-acceptance is
Mm,
so powerful. And I think
yeah.
something that I'm just thinking about now, Ollie, as you're talking, one of my biggest breakthroughs when I was a little bit younger was I always, cool's the wrong word, but I wanted to be cool,
Yeah.
and kind of denied a lot of the things that I was interested in. And when my wife and
Mm,
I got married, suddenly just started to admit that I loved things like superheroes and
mm,
Marvel and Lord of the
yeah.
Rings and The Hobbit, and actually I'm a really big nerd and all
Yeah.
these things. I just completely accepted myself for who I was, and
Yeah.
if people didn't like that, then that's fine.
Yeah.
You're not for me, and I'm not for you,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think
So
that comes with age, doesn't it? As you get older and life happens, you realise what's important in life, and you can only keep up with the Joneses for so long, and that's exhausting.
It absolutely is. And did you go through anything like that, Ollie, or have you always been fairly accepting of kind of who you were?
I think, naturally, of course, when you're younger, you want to, do what everyone else is doing and have what everybody else has. And it was probably, again, going into working for myself was really the start of doing my own thing and being okay with that. And another turning point for me was when my oldest nephew was born. And, that it sounds silly, but you realise then what's important and what you want, how you want to be seen by the next generation. Is a massive one for sure.
So what did your nephew being born bring to you then? Like, how did that kind of change your perspective, or what was?
Oh,
what was going
massively.
on?
I think,
Yeah.
again, going back to the acceptance thing, I had friendships where it wasn't healthy. I probably wasn't treated very kindly, but still remained friends. And essentially, it made me think that's, if in years to come, when my nephews and nieces are older and they said, "Oh, I've got this friend who's not very nice to me and makes me feel like this," I'd say, "Walk away." And I realised, no, I've got to do that myself as well. And that was a massive thing for me, was learning who my true friends were, and that was that.
I think that's so powerful, Ollie, and
Mm,
I'm so pleased you were able to do that as well,
yeah,
because having the power, almost, your own power to go, actually,
yeah,
you know what, this isn't serving me how it should be, or this
no,
relationship isn't serving me. I'm better off with a new tribe, or a new kind of group of people,
yeah,
or just away from you. Because yeah, with relationships, it always has to be give and take. It can't just
yeah,
be take all the time.
yeah,
And I think that if you can get to that point, and I say you with everybody who's listening, if you can get
mm,
to that point where you are so comfortable with yourself to go, yeah, I'm better than this, I don't deserve this. Because you're right,
yeah,
it's that kind of reframing of, if I was telling my nephew, if I was giving my nephew some advice about the same situation I'm in, but if it was just them, the advice would be very clear. You do
yeah,
not want to hang around with those people anymore.
yeah.
So I think
And
that
isn't it
really drove
interesting that
me.
we're kinder to other people than we are to ourselves sometimes?
Oh, I completely agree with that, Tony.
Yeah, yeah,
I completely agree with
yeah.
that. Talk to me about that for a second then. Why do you say that?
I think certainly for me, it was a lot of, again, people pleasing and doing things to make other people happy. And that was, it's not the ideal situation to be in. It's not healthy either, because, sadly in life, you're going to come across people that don't agree with you or won't have the same values that you have. And it's just, thinking, right, that's fine. You think what you think and I'll think what I think, and it's, embracing it and accepting it.
Yeah, it's a really powerful skill to
Yeah,
be able to get to, which is
yeah,
really cool. Okay, cool. So mixing things up then, or changing gears a little bit, just taking you back to maybe your business, but maybe personal life as well. How do you stay motivated and kind of mentally tough? I know you've talked about burnout a little bit,
mm,
but how do you stay motivated and mentally tough through those challenging times? Now I can picture, like, I don't know, it's chucking it down outside, or snowing or freezing.
yeah,
You're in the nice warm house, got to go and do your stuff, got to get that business going. How do
yeah.
you keep yourself going and motivated and resilient?
I think for me, it's, again, it's something that I said is a weakness, but it's also that thing of, I can't let clients down when you've promised them that you'll deliver something. That's got to be delivered. but also, if I don't do it, they'll just find someone else who will, and that's my business gone. So I've got to show up, and whatever the weather, I've got to be there.
I love that phrase, Ollie. I've got to show up. What does that mean for you then? So what does showing up on a day-to-day basis mean in you and your business?
It's showing up regardless. I'm guilty of it, and I've shown up where I've had a throat. I've gone to with a throat infection. I've gone in with colds and not feeling great. And obviously within reason, if I was really ill, I wouldn't do it. But I think that, and a lot of my clients will always say to you, "Oh, you're always so reliable and friendly," and that I want to maintain that.
When clients are saying that, that's how you build great businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is amazing. And I also think sometimes I really like the things you've just said around going to work poorly without, I'm trying to say this the right way. Something I find when I talk to people who claim to be ambitious is that they still actually just want to be really comfortable. So if I'm not feeling up to it, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not, if I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, I'm calling in sick. But what you're saying is, sometimes you're sick, you're still going to go and do the thing, whatever it is.
But also, I think the other thing is as well, if you're working for someone, you might get sick pay. If you or I are ill, we don't get sick pay. We've still got to, if we're ill, we have to be really ill for it not to worry about being paid. We haven't got sick pay. We haven't got someone else who can cover for us. It's all on us.
Absolutely. And I think when you're trying to do great things, like you absolutely are, Ollie, it is a little bit painful and uncomfortable. And, sometimes that means, going to work when you really don't want to. Like, for example, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, the only time I could do it was before work. So it meant sacrificing a bit of sleep. And, a lot of people aren't willing to do those types of things to get where they actually want to go. And I'm just wondering, what did that kind of look like in your business? There's a lot of stress and hard work to get that business going, and after 12 years the fact is still going. You must be doing something right.
I hope so. I mean, it's not been plain sailing. There's been bumps along the road. I've had struggles with my mental health, but I think it is just having that resilience to keep it up and keep it going. And I've fortunate that I have been able to work through all those things, but there's always been a lesson learned in every experience.
What would you say is the biggest lesson so far on your entrepreneurial journey?
I wish I did it sooner.
Don't let me jump in. Keep going. I agree though completely.
I wish that I'd bitten the bullet and done it sooner than I did. But everything happens for a reason.
The quote I really like, Ollie, is it's something like, the future you in 6 months will really appreciate you starting today. So it's something like that. And I think it's so true. And I think that, I've got somebody who I work with who wants to start a business, and they've been saying this for about 6 years. And the time's just going and going and going, where if you just put a bit of action in now and, got bits and pieces going, then you can see some real quick growth. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a great one. And even with this, I know I've talked about the podcast a little bit, but even last year, I had the idea of starting my podcast kind of mid 2023 and put it off, and was overwhelmed and imposter syndrome and all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, now that it's off the ground and I'm enjoying it and meeting some great people and having some great conversations, I'm like, why didn't I just do this 6 months ago?
Yeah. But isn't it weird though? Because I still get imposter syndrome now, and I think it's just normal, isn't it? I think especially when you work for yourself, you feel a little bit like you're doing child's play, almost pretending to be something when in reality Everybody feels that way. We just think it's just us.
That could not be a more true statement if I've ever heard one. I think that is absolutely spot on. And I think a lot of introverts maybe think they're alone in thinking that.
I think that's the biggest problem, actually, is that we all think that, oh, it's just us who feels that way. Everybody feels like an imposter. I think that's just human nature, especially starting something new. And you've got to think everybody starts from somewhere. Nobody goes into something, I'm going to be the best at this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We've all had imposter syndrome. It's reality.
Absolutely. What would you say to those people who are listening today and are struggling with imposter syndrome?
Do you know what I do on rubbish days? I always look at my Facebook page and look at my reviews. God, actually, I'm doing something good here. Let's keep this going, rather than, and then keeps me motivated. So I'd say, just don't give up with it. Keep pushing it and doing what you can to get it started. Don't let anything hold you back.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really, really wise words. And the funny thing with imposter syndrome is well, I was going to say it doesn't go away. It just presents itself in different formats. Maybe it's always near you. Because with whatever you're doing, the challenge, certainly with that entrepreneurship mindset, you're always doing something bigger. So you might be growing your business, which means you're talking to more or different people, which is scary, and you have that imposter syndrome. Or maybe you're doing another qualification, new people, higher levels of study, imposter syndrome. It always presents itself. So being able to actually take control and say, no, I'm the driver here, you're just the passenger, that really helps.
Definitely.
So this is kind of along that same line. What do you think is the one lesson that your journey so far has kind of taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Keep going, and don't let anything or anyone hold you back. Don't listen to that inner voice or that critic. Just go for it.
Did you have that inner voice, Ollie, when you were getting started?
Oh, definitely. I even had a lot of people who were concerned that I was doing it, and it came from a loving place, of course, but it was that a lot of doubt and, oh, are you sure you should be doing this, and is it the right time? And I just had to trust my gut, and thankfully it paid off.
What does trust in your gut look like to you, Ollie?
I would say for me, it's like I just know when something feels right or doesn't feel right, and that's how I gauge it. Is just knowing how I feel about something, and it's 99% of the time right. So you can't go wrong, really, can you?
No, it's powerful, isn't it? Yeah, it's powerful. You do get a general feel I'm doing the right thing here. So just starting to think about some kind of practicalities. Let's say we've got some introverts who are listening, who are ambitious. Maybe they want to start a business or advance their careers. What advice would you give those introverts who are looking to kind of make some moves?
Start small. I'd say definitely taking small steps and trusting yourself, and having a good core group of people around you is a big one.
Do you say that starting small is important for any kind of reason?
I think so. I think just to prove to yourself that you can do it, and ticking those little things off, like with me, for example, posting the flyers daily, tick, getting the word out, tick. I wasn't getting calls straight away, but it was getting the momentum going, and then answering that first call, tick, that first walk, tick. Little things like that.
In those first 2 months where you're grinding, putting the leaflets out, waiting by the phone, hoping it's going to ring, but it doesn't ring for a few days or maybe weeks. How did you keep going? How did you go kind of not go and change direction or give up or get a different job? what was it that made you trust the process?
I think it was just pure determination. Pure determination. It was, I was doing it on, dry days and just doing it as often as I could and hoping and praying I'd get that call.
And do you remember that moment or those early moments where you did start to get calls?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was a massive deal for me. I was nervous, but yes, it's paid off.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm glad you can kind of remember those moments, because they are what we do it for, really. Those little wins stack up and give you the fuel to keep going. Because I assume that once you got that first call and you thought, oh, someone's going to pay me to do this, it kind of gives you more drive to keep going.
Yeah, and it's the snowball effect, because people see you doing it and, oh, can I take your number? Or, what do you charge for this? And would you be able to support my dog? So it's, you're getting yourself out there in more ways once that starts.
I talk about kind of stacking wins. Like if you're having a bad day, similar to what you said actually around kind of looking at your reviews and just bringing it back just to those very small things, really. What was good about today? It might have been a client call, it might have been a little win, it might have been, whatever, it might have been a workout or, whatever.
Yeah.
And those little wins just help you keep going. So yeah, I think that's really cool that you.
And it turns that day around as well, doesn't it? Because you think, oh, this has been a rubbish day, and you look back and actually it wasn't so bad.
Absolutely. So something I really wanted to ask you was, you're very busy. You've got a business, you've got lots of dogs to walk, you've got your own life to live. How do you kind of manage your time and your productivity, I guess? And yeah, what would you advise for introverts around that?
I think it's all individual for every person. So what works for me might not work for someone else, and vice versa. So I think it's just learning as you go, and learning that, okay, this is a hard to go through, but actually I now know what to do going forward from that. So it's taking every experience as a lesson rather than a negative.
No, definitely. And do you, when you're running your day, do you have the same day every day, like certain walks at certain times, or how does that look like? How do you organize your business?
Pretty much it's usually the same. There's the odd day where something might be different, or a last minute thing might crop up, but 9 times out of 10 it's pretty much the same, and they're time, so it's easy to get to one to the other, so it works out quite well.
I remember when Laura used to do some dog walks, she used to take Luna out with her basically all day. And the poor dog would be exhausted by the end, but she was a lot more sprightly back then. But do you kind of organize things like the routes and the journeys you're going to take, and or what's that planning process look like when it comes to organizing those kind of micro details?
I think it all depends on the individual dogs.
Okay.
So you've got some that prefer quieter routes, or aren't, maybe don't like to interact with other dogs. So thinking about that as well, or how near they are to that location or this location. So it's all relative to the individual dogs, I'd say.
Ollie, that's great advice for all entrepreneurs listening in terms of giving bespoke and individual services. So for anybody with a service business, hearing what you've just said is the gold standard for how you should support clients, whether they're human, whether they're dog. Really understanding them individually, really understanding what they like, what they don't like, catering to their needs. It might be different for every single client.
Yeah, and it's every situation. So you've got to try and cater to that as best you can.
Exactly. So I'm not surprised at all that those good reviews are flooding in on your Facebook
thank
page.
you.
What do you think are some misconceptions people have about introverts, and how can we maybe challenge or overcome them?
I think it's easy to assume that someone's if they're quieter, they're grumpy, or they're shy, and actually just thinking rather than assuming that, thinking, oh, that that person may be like that, and that's okay. They might have other strengths, or so it's all relative to that person, isn't it? Rather than just assuming something straight away, not thinking about other qualities they might have, or other strengths and weaknesses.
I would completely agree. I think my wife actually, so my wife's really introverted and probably more so than I am. And quite a few times she's been asked, why are you always so grumpy? And we're sitting there thinking, well, we're not, we're fine.
No, yeah,
Which is it can be quite frustrating, I find.
Yeah, but it's also damaging to that person, because then that goes through their head. Oh my God, I'm grumpy, and people think I'm grumpy and miserable, and that's really damaging to label someone, and it has a ripple effect.
That is definitely like one of the frustrations that we have in our lives. So I'm really glad that you brought that up in this episode. So just staying on that topic, Ollie, if somebody's in that situation and they are having these traits almost chucked at them, you're grumpy, like, why are you so down all the time? When actually they're just being. What would you say to that person in terms of not allowing that to wash over them?
It's strange. No, I wouldn't do this literally. Give them the middle finger in your head and just think, I'm going to be me, and you could think what you want. I know that I'm not what you think I am, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I think that's the most powerful thing that you can do.
It comes back to that acceptance, I think, that you've mentioned a few times, which I completely agree with. And I think if we can get to that place of, I'm pleased with myself and me, then I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, and I think if someone's judging you like that, then it probably says more about them than you.
Definitely does. What's one question you wish I'd have asked you today, but I haven't, and how would you have answered it?
I think I would say definitely more towards how I maybe overcoming the mental health challenges with regards to working for myself. And I'd say, I know it's not everybody, but medication really helped me with that. And I think just having honest conversations with people. And another thing I would say for when you work for yourself is actually have a counsellor who is a sounding board for you, rather than a friend or a family member, because they're not impartial. And I think a therapist is trained to be impartial and can help navigate you through some of those challenges. I think that's been a big help for me.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really huge. And what was that process like for you, working with a therapist or a counsellor? How did you find that? Did it take a while to open up, or how did you find it?
I think it was actually after COVID times, and realizing, oh wow, that's a year of really, that was a full-on year, and it was a scary year as well. And thinking, actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea to talk to somebody about what's been going on, and that's kind of how it all started, really. And I've been doing it ever since.
I love that. And something I am getting more aware of the more I read and learn about high achievers is they have therapists and counselors for forever, basically. So for whatever it is. And the misconception with counseling and therapy and coaching and all these things is a lot of people think, oh, I have to have like a huge traumatic event in order to get therapy or coaching or counseling. And yet, that quite often is the case. You do have that event.
Yeah.
But you could also have it if you haven't had it doesn't have to be a major event. It can just be you're looking to share more, to stay on top of your mental health, or to improve different things. So that's really, really interesting that you've had a positive experience with that.
Yeah, it's been a real help for me, and I've been able to, if I've had issues with within the business or work, I've been able to talk about it and have someone just listen rather than say, oh, if I was you, I'd do this, or if I,
Yes.
and that doesn't always help. It's not beneficial.
I always think it's very strange when people, certainly family members, give opinions around topics they have no experience of.
Yeah.
Or are
Yeah.
unqualified in.
And it comes from a loving place, but it's just not always helpful.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I do have one last question for you. And it would be, what message would you say to any introverts listening who are maybe ambitious or wanting to change their lives, but perhaps feeling hesitant or unsure about taking that step? What would you say to them?
I'd say think about your inner circle. I think that is a massive thing. Having supportive friends and family members is huge. And thinking about the language that you use to describe yourself and what you want to achieve, and having that mindset of, I know I can do this actually, and I will do this, and I will prove you wrong. And yeah, just having that determination to keep going and not give up with it, because it will. The more you try, the more likely it's going to happen for you.
I love that. Ollie, I really appreciate your time today. Before I close this down, what's next for you? What's next for the business, for you personally? What's coming?
At the moment, I mean, the summer is looking really busy, but I want to look into doing some kind of dog behavior training. So that's kind of what I'm looking to get into with it, and incorporating that into the business.
Very cool. Very cool. What about you personally? Have you got any big goals for 2024 outside of your business?
I've got my sister's wedding is in January. Okay. So I'm keeping on top of the nutrition and exercise to make sure I look good for that, because all eyes will be on me as well.
Superb. Yeah. Excellent. And where can we find out more about you, Ollie? Where can we find out more? Tell us about your platforms.
Okay, so Instagram is Ollie Dog Walker 12, and then I have a business Facebook page, which is SWS Sit Walk and Stay.
Perfect. Great. And all of Ollie's details will be in the show notes below, and I'll tag all of them in the posts and things as well. But Ollie, thank you so much
for
all of your time today. It's been really, really appreciated. I think what you're doing is incredible. The fact that you have a 12+ year business is commendable. The hard work behind that is there for all to see, and it's truly inspiring. And I'm certain there's introverts going to be watching this today and looking at your journey and realizing, actually, I can do this.
Yeah.
And that'll be from your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So thank you so much again, Ollie. It's been a really, really insightful conversation. And remember, guys, head over to Ollie's Facebook page, head over to Ollie's Instagram page. Make sure you give Ollie a follow. And remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will catapult you towards your greatness. So until next time, stay unstoppable, everybody.